recent congressional bill gave the Department of Defense funding for raw materials extraction. Last time this was done, it was done under the Manhattan Project, where the Department of Defense, through the Manhattan Project's funding, the largest funding bill in American in global history, we outcompeted nations in our nuclear follies. But inside of that is a legacy of the largest spread of nuclear waste known. Well known anyway. Russia's got the same problem. China has a minor problem. Anybody who's played with these materials has got a minor problem, right? Minor. Just genetic changing, life changing shit. So, by handing this over to the Department of Defense, these are the fundamental minerals, elements needed to make the cell phone that we're talking on now. These are ruthenium, cesium. These are materials for optics in glass to make night vision cameras. These are materials that go in the parts per billion into the chips in your cell phone that make the chips work. All those little transistors, that's still what they are. A microchip is just a billion transistors hunkered down together and sweating it out, doing what they do. So these materials are necessary. These materials, you go through the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project covered so much more. It covered all of the sciences. Manhattan Project had to have crystals. This is part of the radio telecommunications stuff going on and radar stuff. But we had to have precise, exact crystals. And as it happened, those crystals were down in caves in South America. Poof, instant military supply chain protected. The military was deployed to protect that supply chain and those goods, and in that we needed a bunch of science to do that. So this was the Manhattan Project. Now, over time, look at the hegemony of our military. Our military is deployed along our supply chains, our base mineral supply chains, those little tendrils placed out all. Look at the number of commands in Africa. Look at the number of CIA bases down in South America. We're less obvious there. We can plaster, and no one sees our troops in Africa. Who gives a fuck, right? Well, we hear about Middle East ad nauseum, but that's not the only place we are. So those tendrils of American military spread across the planet before the Department of Defense was given this money existed. This is just making it obvious that we are protecting global corporation supply chains. That's the bulk of what our military is doing. That is what a good part of our diplomacy is about, is maintaining those supply chains from Middle East oil, South American precious metals, and we're mining our own. We're mining on the same scale in our nation as other nations are mining, because this is what we do. This is what makes this cell phone that we're using. This is what makes it. Now, the challenge with giving the DoD that type of power, that much money, is it goes unchecked, it goes unregulated. It is not overseen by the EPA or anybody else. It's going to go to the courts, most likely. The courts that are being packed with religious idiots, zealots, and single-minded people. And that mind is money, cash, wealth, moral degenerates hiding in the sheets of something. So this DoD play is going to bite us. It's going to cause more pollution on the planet. It's going to cause more wars. We're going to need more military to protect these supply chains. Go back through the media and look at who's playing with these global minerals. We're competing against China. China has been buying assets across the globe to get access to food resources, be able to grow food for their nation, and mineral resources, because they like cell phones in Russia, in China. Now, Russia doesn't have to play too much of this hegemony other than getting someone else to do their dirty work. The nation has enough natural resources that it can fend for itself, but the science and the extraction and the cost and the pollution make it hard to do things right. So the DOD being given reckless amounts of money and obscene small amounts of oversight. This is the play. Everything is being pushed into our courts. Instead of being proactive, we're being reactive. So, happy Armistice Day. It never stopped. This is asymmetric warfare if you want to put it into warfare terms. The social churn that some folks are bringing to us over already settled values and reasons and rules and individual personal rights, equal rights for no matter the color. But no, we're worried about other people's bedroom activities, or a woman's right to choose and guide her own future in reproductive health care. So, there it is. The play is becoming more obvious, yet harder to see. The Department of Defense, again, you have to look at where our bases are and begin to look at where our resources come from, our raw mineral resources. Things you can't turn off or people die. Things, if we don't do better, A, somebody else will, or B, we keep going the way we're going. Oh, hey, Trump got impeached. Fuck Trump. But it's Republicans that are a problem, and Democrats too. Need to Hey, peace out. Love. Keep chipping away. Keep the pick busy and warm by your bedside.